Great to have you here. I've just returned home from the physio. I'm talking about my Achilles again. It's this really kind of frustrating injury, but it's teaching me a lot about life and recovery. With this injury, the physio said today, because basically now I'm really having to up my strength work. And I said, look, this morning I ran through it about the 20-minute mark. It started to kind of lost power, but I can run through the pain, but I'm just wondering if I run hard, will I tear it? And he's like, no, you got an injury where when you work it out, you're going to continue to aggravate it. He goes, but I can't tell you to stop running for 2 months because you just won't do that. I want to do the Gold Coast Half Marathon. But what he said was it's all about just managing the pain threshold, managing the injury, and not aggravating it so much that it goes really bad. So I've got this plan and where I'm trying to keep up my fitness, get more fit, get faster, get stronger, while also managing the pain, trying to make sure that I don't continue to re-aggravate it so it gets worse, but just to kind of keep it stable and improve it over time with everything else that I'm doing. And this is how I'm keeping match fit. I'm keeping match fit when I'm running because I'm having to take this kind of delicate approach, but I've got a plan. I'm working with an expert on that. And the reason I was at the physio today is because I've had the time to do it, because I was meant to be at our Red Carpet Campout, which because of Cyclone Alfred, we had to postpone it. Now, the good news is that 100% of the people that were coming along this week are all able to make the new date in June. We've had one more amazing person sign on. We've got one more tent left. But what that has done is cleared out my entire calendar, which has been phenomenal. And I thought what I really want to achieve this week, 2 key things. One was really landing my next book topic because I've been floating around with it. And really, it's not going to be time. It's actually a decision from my end. I need to make a call on that. That's one thing. And the second thing is just getting this leg up to speed, doing all the strength exercises, having the space to do it, seeking out expert help. And I've seen the physio for a while, but got a good appointment in with him today. I'm getting some dry needling in tomorrow. I have massage booked in on Saturday. I've got time in my calendar. I've booked in these strength, my workout plans. So this is my attempt to keep match fit. This concept of match fitness, it was funny because Alan Joyce, I remember, brought it into pop culture, because it's usually a sporting term, but he brought it into pop culture a few years ago when the borders reopened for international travel and there were so many delays at airports and airlines, and Alan Joyce blamed it on the passengers not being match fit for travel in terms of when they get to the airport, they forget what they can pack, what they can't, and so security's taking extra long because they don't remember. And he got slammed for making that comment because, of course, there were so many other variables to it in terms of even staffing. I mean, Qantas got rid of all their baggage handlers during this time. There was a ton of different things. It wasn't just the match fitness. But it is interesting to think about match fitness when you think about the work that you do and also maybe the teams that you lead as well, and how we all have really differing perspectives on match fitness. I was working with a group earlier this year at a conference and asked them, who is responsible for your match fitness? And I think everyone agreed, everyone said, we are responsible. What I find super fascinating in the world of work these days is the accountability on organizations to have to take this on. And they're running resilience training, they're running all these different initiatives to help people out with their match fitness. It's good to have that container, but I do not think it's the organization's responsibility for match fitness. Now, that might be controversial. You might argue with me about that. I think it's up to the individual, though, to maintain their match fitness. And if they're in a system, and look, if you're listening to this, I would say the majority of people that listen to this show are white-collar workers, your knowledge workers. Similar to me, I think it's up to us to be match fit and not rely on anyone else doing that for us. Let's take the sporting analogy further. The book that I referenced earlier this week was Not Everything Counts, But Everything Matters by Ivan Cleary, coach of the Panthers NRL team, who have won a ton of they're the team to beat at the moment in the NRL in this era of football in Australia. And he says something in his book is we set the expectation in terms of what it is. And if you're not match fit, you're not going to play. And they provide the container in terms of the personal training, the gym and everything else, but ultimately it's up to the individual to do that. Now, I think the important thing is, and what he shares there is, we've set the expectation of what it means to be match fit. What I think is interesting is a lot of organizations they might be a culture that drives really hard, and maybe it's important to set up front. That's what you are. Hey, we're going to drive you hard, but let's be honest and set the expectation that this is what it's like to work here. I do sense some organizations maybe try to soften, really, they want to attract people, so they sell this really appealing workplace. They don't really actually tell people what the reality is of working there. And so already you've set up a false expectation of what that's like. But even thinking about if you're running your own business, what does match fitness mean to you personally? What does that actually mean? Like for me, there's certain things that are important for my match fitness in terms of just it's like an average over the week. Have I gotten enough sleep? Because there's sometimes, and this comes back to, it's funny you talk to Miriam about unprofessionalism, but professionalism is actually, well, particularly in my role, I'm getting paid to show up and I'm getting paid to be match fit. They don't want me at 80%, they want 100% Leanne. And there have been times in my career I really have to touch wood here. I probably shouldn't even say this out loud, but I've never ever missed a gig. Like I've never called in sick. I've been extremely lucky, but also, have said no to invitations, have created space in my calendar. When I know something big is coming up, when I know something that's important and I'm front facing, I have pulled back. I've made that decision intentionally because I want to be match fit for the event that I'm hosting. Again, I really wish I hadn't said that out loud because it's going to come and burn me. And look, there's so many invisible illnesses as well. I was listening to a really great interview with Mr. Beast, and he has Crohn's disease. This is an awful disease where your immune system starts attacking yourself. In the interview, he was saying that he'll book a multi-million-dollar film shoot. He'll wake up just feeling so awful, hideous, in so much pain. And what he does, and I know this is extreme, he's the number one YouTuber in the world. I was so inspired to hear that he had Crohn's disease and continues to show up, just unreal. And just continues to show up. I think with Match Fitness as well, it's even though you may not be feeling your best, will you still do the things that you need to do? And it goes back to Jim Rohn. I love Jim Rohn. Something that he says is that success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. And so for me, those simple disciplines are getting enough sleep, drinking enough water, making sure I do have some spaciousness in my calendar where I can, because that helps me perform. I just need time to think. That's just a personal thing. I need to be outside, but it's really around this ability to play even when you don't feel like it. And that I think is the ultimate test of a professional, is showing up. I think Match Fitness is very personal and it is that self-awareness of what do you need to operate at your best. Now, the other interesting thing about this phrase is that it's match fitness. It's not training fitness. So it's not like you have to be at the top of your game every single day consistently, even though that would be ideal. But we are humans. There's a cycle of life. Sometimes we just don't get the sleep we need, but we still have to operate anyway. So there's probably two things here. One is, what can you do to maintain your match fitness? What does that even look like for you? What do you need to operate at your peak? The second part is, if you don't get that, are you still able to operate at your peak for a small period of time? And then can you factor in recovery time or something outside of that to then help you reboot and get back to your baseline level? And so when I do know, I've run workshops overseas off maybe zero sleep. I've been jet lagged. I've had no sleep at all. And I've had to run these multi-day events. And 5 out of 5, do not recommend doing that. But sometimes you just have to do it. And I feel like there's a kind of culture where now it's just people call it in and say, oh, I can't do it. And I don't want to be like this person, or you're soft or anything like that. It's not about that at all. It is actually character building, and it's building resilience in yourself and trusting that. The good thing for me is I know that if I don't have any sleep, I know that I can trust myself to deliver a session. I'll be okay. I've seen people even Alan Weiss, when he was in Australia, he was sleeping horribly, and he was actually quite sick on that third day. I remember he flew back to America and he was not in a good place. But when he delivered his session off no sleep, we had a sentient strategy session. This is a 75-year-old guy, and he was on his game. He was sharp, he was funny, he was there for us. So there definitely is a bit about this whole performance element, about showtime when it comes to match fitness. And then also consistently thinking around day to day, how can you show up at your best? How can you sort of train this habit? What does match fitness look like for you? So I'm curious, what does it look like for you? Send me a note on the socials. And if you found this episode helpful, share the love, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.